It kind of backfired a little bit because a lot of people would say, well, you don't even look sad. I haven't seen you cry in a long time. And it's like, you have no idea.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. My name is Risa and I'm your host. We are talking to real families about real stories here on The Real Family Eats, where we've got food for thought and thoughtful food. So let's eat. Welcome back, everybody, to The Real Family Eats. I'm excited about today's episode, and our guest, the lovely Jamie, is joining us. So, hi, Jamie. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. All right. For anybody who does not know you, can you introduce yourself for us today?
Yes, so I am a mother of two and a business owner of four.
Oh, my goodness. So, you've got your hands full, I imagine.
Yes, very much so.
Okay. Well, I can't wait to hear a little bit about the parenting journey that you're going to share with us today. I think that there's a lot of value there that our parents will get. But before we do that, as always, you're going to share a recipe with us, and we got a 2-for-1 today, folks. So tell us, what recipe am I going to be making, and why did you choose this one?
So I chose bacon wrapped dates combined with pickle olive martinis. And I chose this because if this were something that I were making at home, it's the one meal that makes me feel like I'm at a five-star resort, no matter where I'm at. I just automatically feel like I'm on vacation and extra fancy. So that's why I chose that.
Yeah. And what I love about that is one of the number one things I hear from parents all the time is we're just so busy to kind of take some time for ourselves and have nice things again, is so few and far between. So I love that this is something that folks could do right at home, without necessarily going on vacation and having to drag all the kids with us, right, or leave them. But that could still give you a little bit of a break.
Exactly. A patio, a sunset, and that, and you're set for the night.
Perfect. Okay. So if you could tell me the steps to the recipe, and then I'll get mixing and making while we chat.
Okay, sounds good. So we're going to first, are the dates pitted and cut? If not, we're going to go ahead and do that.
They are.
Okay, and then we are going to pre-cook the bacon slightly.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
then we're going to, did you want me to do it slowly or just
You
keep
can just
going?
give it all to me, and then I'll get moving.
Okay, perfect. And then we're going to stuff the dates. So whether you have goat cheese or cream cheese, whatever your preference is, we're going to go ahead and stuff those. Um,
Okay.
and then after that, we're going to wrap it in the bacon, put a toothpick in it just to kind of keep it in place, and then we're going to bake them.
Awesome. And then how about the martini? What are we doing there?
So the martini, obviously, you can use gin, vodka, whatever your preference is for a base. Then we're going to do a little bit of pickle juice, a little bit of olive juice, and then we're going to garnish with a pickle and olive.
Perfect. Well, I can absolutely do that. And while I get moving, I know you mentioned, you've got 2 kids, and we were talking a little bit before this, that your journey to kind of getting there wasn't necessarily super straightforward, and there were some challenges that you had. So I'd love to kind of hear a little bit more about your experience and kind of entering into parenthood and what that looked like for you.
So I was 20 years old. I had just opened a brand new business, a dog grooming salon. And so I had a lot on my plate at the time. I was very young. I was about to be a new mother. I was a new business owner. I had a lot of stuff going on for me at that point. And my mindset was always just work, work, work until you can't work anymore. And that's what life is.
Okay.
And so when I had my son, I was back to work within 4 weeks after a C-section. I was on the phone constantly, even throughout that break. And it always felt wrong very deep inside of me, but I just didn't really know any other way.
Okay.
So, when I lost my son in 2015, he was 5 months old at the time. It just
Wow.
gave me a huge reality shift that I don't think a lot of people have the opportunity to experience that sort of reality shift, especially at that young of an age.
Hmm.
Um, and it just really made me prioritize for the future. So I knew that when I had kids again, that I had to take this time to buy my time back and make sure that once I was ready to do that again, that I would be able to be home with them and spend time with them because life isn't about working ourselves to death.
Hmm. So, if it's okay with you, I would love to kind of take a step back. You had mentioned that for you, kind of work was what you knew. It's kind of how you were living life at that point. Can you say a little bit more about for you, kind of where did that was that something that was modeled for you, or how did that kind of mindset come about at the beginning?
Yeah, so my mom is an entrepreneur as well. And so my younger ages, my grandma watched me a lot. So I knew that my mom worked really hard and she was gone a lot of the time. And that was just kind of the mindset that was modeled through my childhood and my parents.
Gotcha. Okay. So for you, like the idea, because I heard you mention you said 4 weeks after a C-section that you returned to work.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I imagine that's got to be exhausting.
Well, I was young. I had the energy. I mean, doing something like that now would be out of the question. But for me, I was just so laser focused on my business. And then also, I didn't have it set up in a way where I could step back. So when I did, there were a lot of fires to put out. So I kind of felt obligated to go back because it wasn't set up correctly for me to leave. So.
Gotcha. Okay. And so when this happened and this, gosh, unimaginable loss happened, what what came up for you? What was that like? I can only imagine just, gosh, the amount of devastation in that moment.
Yeah, I was definitely in shock for a few weeks. There's a lot of like hazy moments and things that I don't remember very clearly about that time. But just every day, every moment, like you just wake up, your eyes open and you're just in pain immediately and just tears flooding immediately from wake to sleep for I mean, I don't even know how long. And then having to deal with, the funeral and arrangements and then family and then everyone else's pain on top of that and then running a business. I don't know how I got through it. I think I was just existing through it, to be honest.
Wow. Yeah. And I think you make such a point that maybe people don't think about is that it doesn't just stop there, that there are so many other things, like you said, other people's pain and grief that maybe they're coming to you and expressing and having to deal with the logistics. And on top of it, you're dealing with, you've got a business, which I imagine at that point in time was your way of putting food on the table. Is Would that be a fair statement?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And so, I mean, how do you manage all of that? How did you get to the other side of that?
I think by just putting laser focus into positive things, because obviously it's very easy to go down a rabbit hole of like, partying or drug use or, other things like that. But if you can put all of that pain and energy into making a better life for yourself, which obviously is easier said than done. But all that energy needs to go somewhere. So channeling it into something positive, I think, is really the only way out.
Hmm. Was there something for you that kind of helped you, or that you in particular kind of channeled that energy into?
Mine was work because that's all I really had at the time. I knew my focus was just my next life is going to be exactly the way I want it, and I'm going to make that and manifest that into every single day. So it was really just putting all my focus into like, I mean, I went back into things like I went into Muay Thai. I was going to the gym constantly. I really enjoy singing. I feel like the frequencies, like the frequency that happens when you're singing, is very, very healing. So just like personal hobbies and little things on the side. And then, like I said, just diving into work.
Yeah. Were there any of those, because it sounds like you had multiple maybe coping tools that you went to that you used in your toolbox. Was there anything, whether it's there or other people or support groups or anything else like that that for you just really was helpful in your healing journey? Because I feel like so many times people say, oh, with grief, especially, it just takes time. And we kind of stop there. There's not necessarily too much more as to like what really did help. Did anything help? Or was it just kind of a grin and bear it until it's a little bit lighter?
No, so I think I unintentionally created some tools for myself. I'm not against therapy or, going to talk to someone at all. It just didn't work for me because I would go to the groups, and a lot of the parents were experiencing things like SIDS and, accidental things. And
Okay.
mine was just it was it's just a different story. So even in those groups, I would tell my story and everyone would stop and be wide-eyed and be staring at me. And I was supposed to not feel like an alien in those situations, and I still did. And then I
Mm.
would go see psychiatrists, psychologists, and I literally have to get up and go hand them tissues because they're crying. So
Oh,
I mean, I tried three or four psychiatrists, psychologists. I tried a few groups. It just wasn't for me. It was better for me to heal on my own. But a couple things that I did do was the first thing was, obviously being a business owner or just, having to live life in general, you can't be a mess all the time. You have to have a tool where you can kind of bring yourself together and compose yourself. So
mm.
in the car or when I had private time, I would play music that would remind me of him, and I would just cry and I would get everything out and I would just allow myself to feel every emotion. But when the car stopped and the music turned off and I had to walk in somewhere or I had to talk to someone, I over time trained myself to shut it off in that moment. So that allowed me to kind of gain a sense of control where I wasn't just shoving it down and not allowing it to come out, but I wasn't
Hmm.
just, breaking down every single moment of my life. And I was able to function that way. It kind of, backfired a little bit because a lot of people would say, well, you don't even look sad. I haven't seen you cry in a long time. And it's like, you have no idea. But I just learned to control it over time by shutting it off and allowing my time in private.
Yeah. When you say it kind of backfired, was it like a backfire because then people maybe then didn't extend any empathy or compassion because they're looking at you and saying, oh, well, she must be over it, so we're good to go? Or can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, exactly. So people would just call me like non-emotional, or that I didn't care, or that maybe I must have had
Oh,
something to do with it, like just all kinds of things because I wasn't a mess in public, or around
mm,
people, as much as I should have been or something. I don't know. But that was just me trying to gain control of my life, and people didn't see what I was going through at night or in the car or any other time. So I'm
yeah.
fine with that narrative, people having that narrative, because I had to do what I had to do to get out of that, and I don't need to explain anything to anyone. But that is one of the things that happened because of that.
Yeah. And I hear you saying, kind of you were giving people, they were free to kind of have their own thoughts and their own opinions, and you needed to kind of focus on you and your healing and whatever that looked like. I imagine that doesn't necessarily have those words and those thoughts and those rumors and opinions kind of flying around make it any less hurtful when you're already trying to just move through it and survive.
Yeah, I mean now I can see the perspective clear as day, but back then in the midst of that, yeah, those comments killed me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I'm so sorry that that was your experience because in those moments with such grief, I think what you mentioned there of finding what works for you is so important because what works for one person isn't going to fit the next person. We're such unique individuals, and to kind of expect one person's grief to look exactly the same as someone else's, I feel is really unfair and unrealistic.
Yeah. And then measuring that to how the person actually feels inside is absolutely crazy. But
Yeah.
none of those people have gone through that are judging things like that. The
Mhm.
people that have gone through that are non-judgmental to however you're acting. So,
Yeah. And what I really appreciated that you said is that for you, you had realities of having to show up for a business and run that. And it would, I imagine, be debilitating if you didn't have some of those boundaries of like, okay, I have this car ride, right, to kind of feel whatever I want to feel, whatever comes up, I'm going to let it come. And then once this car ride is done, and I shut off the music, that's my boundary that I'm drawing because realistically, I need to step into the space and I need to be a business owner.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, the triggers were just nonstop. I mean, I was the face of that business, and so 3,000 clients knew I just had a baby. So every single one was coming in. How's the baby? How's the baby? How
Wow.
100 times a day. And so the triggers were everywhere. So if I didn't learn to compose myself, like I would have been gone.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I couldn't imagine, like you said, just over and over and over some of those questions, and to have something that's so personal and so private kind of be in the public eye, for lack of a better way of kind of saying that, and to
Yeah,
have some of that
I think
scrutiny.
I think for like 6 months I would say, "Oh, he's good. He's good." And then
Mhm.
one of my groomers put her hand on me afterwards and she looked at me and she goes, "What are you going to say in 9 years that he's in baseball?" And I was like, it was harsh to hear that, but I was like, you're right. And then that was a new phase of it was now every single person who asked and who has been asking for the last couple months, I now have to like kind of say something to them so that this lie doesn't like continue. So then there was that phase of it. And yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, if I could, I'm gonna grab my chilled. I'm ready to pour my drink in. Grab my glass over here. I wanted to ask because I hear you saying some of what you experienced that maybe wasn't as helpful in your grieving process. Is there anything for anybody listening that maybe has a loved one, a friend, whomever that might be going through something like this or will in the future that you could offer them? What would have been more helpful for you that people could have offered, support that they could have extended to you during this time?
I would say silence. I mean, silent support. People are always trying to, offer advice, especially not people that haven't even gone through that. They want to offer advice. They want to say all sorts of things to you. It's better to just show up at that person's house, bring food, and just sit there and observe what they need and give it to them. Don't ask them questions. Don't offer advice. Just be there and support in silence.
Yeah. I so appreciate that perspective. I think it's so valuable because instinctually, what I find is so many people, they want to fix it with this idea that if I fix it, it'll be all better, right? That's going to make it go away. And sometimes for grief, especially, there's not really a fix. And what works for you or what you think might be a good fix may not be what they actually need. And so, really, kind of just being there and sitting there, it sounds like, if I'm hearing you correctly, is sitting there with them through it and letting them take the lead as far as what do they need and really supporting in that way and letting your your ego and that instinct to like insert yourself into kind of what you think might be best, kind of let that go. Is that, did I hear, would that be an accurate way of saying that?
Yes, exactly. I mean, and those, we're going to need basic necessities, right? We're not going to be cooking for ourselves. We're not going to be, so any like basic necessities that you can offer is, we think about those things years and years later.
Wow. Yeah, that's so powerful. I appreciate you being willing to kind of share that piece of it and share kind of for you um, maybe what would be helpful that and maybe suggesting things that people haven't already thought of. So thank you so much for being willing to kind of share that piece with our listeners here. Um, if I could, I know it sounded like from that experience and from that journey that you had, that very difficult journey that you had to walk through, it it maybe shifted your perspective on that idea of work first. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yes. So, I mean, now I have two children and I mean, I still work every day. I have a lot of stuff going on, but I've gotten myself in a position where I have people managing and then I have people managing the managers. So, I get a lot of phone calls, I'm on the computer, but I'm always here. I'm with my kids all the time. And now that they're homeschooled, we're always together. We're going on little vacations and we just take our work and our school with us wherever we go. So that's the life that I manifested and that's what it's come out to and honestly it's come out to a lot more than I expected also. So I'm very grateful.
Can you say more? You said that you homeschool. What can you walk me through what the decision process was? How did you come to that decision to homeschool them?
So every day dropping off at school, I just had this feeling in my chest like this is wrong. I'm separated from their father, so there was split custody at the time. Then they go to school for 7 hours a day. Then we do homework. So like my time with them was just almost nothing. And it
Oh,
just made me feel sick every single day. So I ended up, on social media and stuff, like following some homeschool people, and that was kind of like my road down the rabbit hole. Nobody in my family was supportive of that at all. They're very like, everyone's got to go to school. That's the way. And I
mm.
have teachers in the family. So, like, I had no support at all. Everyone said I was absolutely crazy.
Oh,
So,
wow.
I ended up just pulling the trigger with no support and doing it. And it's been the best decision of my life. And my one child that was 3 grade levels behind is now on target after her first year of homeschool. So it was a
Oh,
really
my
good.
goodness. Yeah, and I think that's such a different shift because, like you said, maybe externally, people have again a lot of opinions about how to raise children and what's best for them. And it sounds like for your child that it really suited them and actually helped them achieve all the things that they could achieve. Would that be an accurate statement?
Exactly. Plus the freedom. I have all my time back, like all of it. So.
Yeah. I'm so curious for you when you had that like feeling in your body that like this doesn't feel right. Was there something that maybe like an aha moment that helped you realize what it was that you were responding to? And I ask that because oftentimes, when I work with folks, um, just as a society, I feel like we get a lot of conditioning of just, oh, do what you need to do. And we kind of forget about what signals our body is telling us and what they're trying to communicate. Or, so many times there's bad emotions versus just honoring, like, hey, emotions are actually really valuable. Sometimes they're trying to communicate a message to us. And so I'm so curious for you, like, how did you kind of draw that through line and be able to connect that what your body was telling you was actually related to just this value that you have as spending time with your children and really the importance of that.
I don't know what that is specifically, or if that's just something that I have, but when I have those, they're so strong that they make me physically sick. I start having
Okay.
like physical symptoms, and
Uh-huh.
it doesn't go away until I figure out what it is. And so in the
Okay.
beginning, like I didn't know anything about homeschool. That wasn't like triggering to me at first. But I just knew that there had to be a way where I could get my time back. And I don't think that it's right in any sort of biological way for us to spend as much time apart from our children that we do, especially from
Mm,
such a young age. It's insane and it's normalized.
yeah. Absolutely. And I think what you mentioned there, that normalization piece of it, it absolutely is. And it's not until you actually like sit down and you crunch the numbers that you realize how many hours they spend, like you said, away from you. And I can appreciate where um that, especially with that shift, it sounds like for you, of just the importance and wanting to be able to be there and absorb kind of every minute, that that would make sense, and that's like a logical next step. I'm so curious, like I heard you mention, when you were researching and you were looking at it, there wasn't really support, and there was a lot of, it sounds like, pushback, and you decided to still kind of pull that trigger. Did you notice like an immediate, that feeling went away when you decided to homeschool?
As soon as I signed them up, that feeling went away.
Wow. So it was super, super immediate of like, yes, this is where I was supposed to be going.
Yeah, exactly. Because at that point, especially seeing like how their personalities were developing and stuff, we're not raising them anymore. We're just taking a part in raising them at that point because they spend more hours away from us than they do with us, and that just
Mm,
doesn't sit right with me.
yeah. Is there any, again, I'm going to go back to any thoughts or wisdoms that you would offer anyone who is thinking about doing homeschooling, but similar to you, is getting a lot of pushback and a lot of kind of naysayers to that? Anything that you would offer, maybe insights or things that you've learned that maybe help make the journey a little bit more manageable without that support?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people have the idea of homeschool where I'm the teacher and I have to come up with a curriculum. That's very traditional homeschool. If you have the time and the means to do that, that's totally fine. But there's actually a lot of school districts that are coming up with hybrid programs. So if
Okay.
you want to just like dip your foot in the pool, you can try a hybrid program where they're being taught by a teacher on Zoom, and then basically the rest of it is just, guided homework to where you're not coming up with lesson plans, you're not like diving into this whole world. You're just able to have them home more, and then you just, you have to have your laptop set up in a little area and your supplies and stuff like that. But I think it's an easier of a step to take than just diving into traditional homeschool.
Okay. And now, so what program do your children use currently?
So we go to Sage Oak.
Okay.
So and
And so, yeah,
they do
go.
uh, they do the hybrid program. So it's 3 days a week for like 3.5 hours or so. So like nine
Okay.
hours a week on a laptop, and then the rest is just independent study.
Gotcha. Okay. So do your children, I know one of the big things that I heard, especially when we had the pandemic, right, was that, oh, having your kids on Zoom, are they going to get kind of the Zoom fatigue, if you will? How do you manage children kind of in the screens that much? Did you notice any of that with your children? Are there tips or tricks that you do to kind of help mitigate some of that?
So it helps that the days are shortened. I'm not sure if during COVID they were doing full 7 hour days or not. But also amidst COVID, everyone was kind of locked in and we weren't doing anything in general. Obviously, it's very important that if you're going to go down that route, you need to have times of socialization. At least you need to be able to be going to the park more because you do need to fulfill like the physical education portion. But as long as they have a balance where they're getting out of the house and doing something, even if it's free, like the park, like
Hmm.
us, we'll set up little like random field trips throughout the year that we go on, like educational field trips. We go to the park a few times a week. We make sure that we have little co-ops and friends that they can, have. So it's very important to maintain that social side, and then I feel like that being cooped up feeling kind of goes away.
Awesome. I love those ideas, and getting creative, it sounds like, with how you're getting them out, how that socialization and maybe even reaching that physical education credit as well, that it doesn't necessarily have to be oh, we're doing PE as like you would see it in the school system necessarily.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so as we wrap up here, one of the questions that I generally love to ask folks is if I'm a big Back to the Future fan, so if you had access to a DeLorean and could go back in the past where you could go to yourself at a specific age or a specific event and offer yourself something, not to change the past, but whether it's offer yourself some words or offer yourself even just a hug. um, when would you go back to what event or what age, and what would you offer yourself?
You said it actually. I probably wouldn't say much to myself because I wouldn't want to change the trajectory of how things have worked out, but I would probably just give myself a hug and tell her
Yeah.
everything's going to work out and everything's going to be okay.
Oh, I got chills. Because even like you said, even just a hug and just that reassurance sometimes is enough for us when you're in it and it feels like that light at the end of the tunnel is never going to come.
Yeah, but it does.
Yeah. Well, I so appreciate you being willing to get vulnerable with us and talk about some of the things that maybe our society likes to keep in the dark and not really talk about, and being willing to kind of share that story and help normalize, because these experiences that you've had are very much experiences that parents have had, might have in the future. And so being willing to kind of share that, I so appreciate you coming and joining us today and sharing this recipe. I'm excited for my dates.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me. I had a lot of fun and I hope this reaches someone who needs it.
Yes. All right. As we close out, I think that all of us deserve a seat at the table. So I love shameless plug section. So tell us, anybody who's listening, how can they connect with you? What are your businesses? What services do you offer? And what's the best way for anybody to just network with you or connect?
So you can find my Instagram or Facebook just by my first and last name, and then all of my salons are located in Southern California. They're all linked on those pages. So
Okay. And they're all dog grooming salons, correct?
yes, they're all dog grooming salons. There's Doggy Spa in Corona, Temecula Pet Salon in Temecula, Fallbrook Pet Parlor, and then the newest one is a dog wash in Buena Park.
Okay, awesome. Well, just a quick side note, how did you get into dog grooming? What made you go there?
I was actually in vet tech school and I wanted to get my foot in the door somewhere else because vet tech was going to take me years to get through and it was also very expensive. So I found
Hmm.
a little hole in the wall grooming school in Buena Park and I ended up loving it so much. I started a little side gig in my garage and
Wow.
it just completely blew up. And then, yeah, one location after the next. And then I actually ended up buying the school that I went to recently, a dog
Did
washing
you?
school. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That's amazing. I'm so happy for you and all the success that you had there. And I will make sure anyone who is interested in connecting, all of that will be in our show notes. So make sure to check it out there. Thank you again, Jamie, for being willing to talk with us. And thank you, everyone, for listening. We will see you next time. If you or anyone that you know is struggling with any of the topics that we discussed in today's episode, make sure to check out our show notes for support and resources. You can get help. Thanks again for joining us on today's episode of The Real Family Eats. If you're a parent ready to share your real life parenting story, make sure to reach out to us in our website found in the show notes. And that goes for today's recipe, social medias, support, and resources. All of that can be found in our show notes. So make sure to check them out. And make sure to follow, like, share, subscribe, and stay up to date on all things The Real Family Eats. I hope you'll join us next time for more food for thought and thoughtful food. Enjoy your eats.